Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. So I just came back from the Hong Kong show. Actually gonna have a video of that published a little bit later. It takes a little more time to cut those videos. Unlike my other Hong Kong series, actually gave an insight to a little bit of what's going on at the show. Showed you my trip to Dubai prior to that where I did some dealings. Just a little bit of an insight to the business itself rather than just a great time in HK, which is what the last video was all about. In any case, brought back some goodies from HK and I wanted to show you some of them. So I brought the Holy Grail RM004 split-second chronograph from Richard Mille in titanium. This is the B2. Brought the Mare Nostrum Panerai, which is a controversial piece, and I'll tell you why in a second. And I brought back an oldie but a goodie, the Carbon 1 MC1 from Audemars Piguet Tourbillon, sort of the follow-up to the MC12. I'm going to start off with the Mare Nostrum from Panerai chronograph. This thing is a behemoth. It's a 52 millimeter chrono, which is a tribute to an original prototype made back in 1943 for the Italian Navy. This guy is 52 millimeters and limited edition of 500 pieces at a retail price of $40,600, I believe, which personally I think is a bit hefty for this particular watch, number one. And number two, I believe the edition that they made when they made 150, I think it was a bit much. They should have made maybe 50 of them, maybe even 25. Then I think this watch would hold its value better. I think it would be a lot more desirable. 150 of these at a hefty price of $40,000 resulted in the fact that this watch is not selling over list, or it's not selling anywhere near to list. I think when they first came out in 2015, people were paying list price and maybe a little bit above, but the minute a few more of them hit the market, they started trading for less and less. Case in point, pre-owned, you can pick this watch up around $27,000, $28,000 mark today. For a brand new one like this one, we're selling this watch at 30 off, roughly about $28,500. I happen to buy this watch exceptionally well, hence I'm able to sell it at 30 off. Most dealers probably won't be able to deliver it at that price, but again, that's not what this video is about. I mentioned the fact that this is a controversial watch, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, Perezcope.com, and I'll link them below, did an article on the mystery of this particular watch, and it was a good one. I'm not going to read you the entire article. I will read you this. According to Perezcope, and this is what they write, the Mare Nostrum chronograph is an exceptional, rare, mysterious watch within the vintage Panerai family. The original prototype went missing, and the only available evidence of its existence was a photographic plate from the 1950s, which shows the Mare Nostrum in a three-quarter view. The photograph depicts a bicompax chronograph with an enormous diameter of 52 millimeters. Mare Nostrum, which is Latin for our sea, was a Roman name for Mediterranean Sea. The name was revived by Italian nationalists and fascists who were driven by imperialistic ambitions to restore the Roman Empire in the Mediterranean Sea. It's said that the chronograph was developed for deck officers for the Italian Navy. Only very little is known about this project, and although Richmond and several other sources claim as production date the year 1943, by taking the design language into consideration, the date is most certainly incorrect. In 2005, one of Mare Nostrum prototypes surfaced out of nowhere, was auctioned at Christie's in Geneva. The watch has been authenticated by renowned experts. Prior to auction, the winning bid was placed by Angela Bonatti, who bought the watch for the Richmond Panerai Museum. That paragraph alone should tell you that something must be fishy. And there are plenty of other articles out there that say, I don't think this is the watch, and I don't think this is correct, and that's not correct. Again, opinions like assholes, everybody has one. But in the end, my job was to tell you what this watch is all about, what it trades for, and personally, I think it's a cool looking watch. It's freaking huge, 52 millimeters. This is way too big for my wrist. Would I wear it? Yeah, I'd still wear it. I don't care, it'll look big on me, but nevertheless, a cool watch. Next, I want to talk about the MC Carbon 1 from Audemars Piguet. It is a tourbillon chronograph. The entire case is made of carbon, and the bezel is ceramic, and thank God for that, because carbon beats up so well that if this bezel was carbon as well, it would probably end up looking like crap, sort of like the T. Malingi in all carbon, which happens to be one of my favorite watches, but because it's so light to wear. Same thing here. This watch is extremely light to wear. It is a tourbillon chronograph. It is a manual wind. The machine in the back is outstanding. Give you guys a quick close-up of that. Look at that. Oh my God, this is just gorgeous. So what is this watch? Basically, it's an MC12 that they made a year prior in platinum. in a carbon case. This came out around the time when everything was so hot, it was flying off the shelves. I think at the time I was selling the MC1 in platinum, the Maserati piece, for $265,000, maybe close to 300 even people were paying for those things because you couldn't get them. It was a limited edition. So they said, hey, PVD was becoming popular. They made it in a all-black carbon case with ceramic bezels, making an all-black watch. Extremely, extremely light. It's probably, the platinum piece probably weighed 5 times what this thing weighs. They threw it out at a retail price of $303,000, which was crazy at the time because I think the original list on the Platinum MC12 was around in the low 200s. Again, don't quote me, I don't remember exactly, but 303,000, which resulted in this watch actually discounting right off the bat. But again, it wasn't discounting much. These things were still selling at around that $200,000 mark. People were buying these things. Today, the value tanked. The value tanked on an MC12, and the value tanked on this just the same. 2 reasons. Really, really high retail price, number 1. Number 2, not the most popular case shape. This is the millinery case shape, which is one of the least popular cases from Audemars, probably after Edward Piguet, which is the rectangular shape. But this guy suffered what every other expensive watch from AP that was a non-offshore suffered. With times, the market dropped, and today you can pick these up brand new or like new, probably around the 120, 130 price mark. This watch is pre-owned. I only have papers with it. I don't even have the original box. Hence, this thing I'm gonna probably end up selling under $100,000, right around that $95,000 price range, which is a hell of a deal for a tourbillon if you happen to like the shape, if you're looking for a not a heavy but a very light watch, as well as huge complications from a major brand like AP. Is it the hottest thing on the market today? No, it is not. It's just one of those deals on older models, and which is the fate that most brands suffered, especially post-crash, because nowadays people want the latest and the greatest. They want to see what's in magazines. But again, you got guys out there paying $120,000, $130,000 for a Baba from Richard Mille, which is a time-only watch, where for less money you can pick up a tourbillon Chrono from AP in an all-carbon case. So, you know, to each his own. Last but not least, I want to talk about a Holy Grail. And I mentioned that this is a Holy Grail is because this is one of the very first watches that Richard Mille made. This is the RM004. Now, this particular watch is a V2, so the very first watch he made in the 04 was a PVD case 004 Rattrapant, which is a split-second chronograph. Let me show you the crazy machine behind the watch. I mean, this watch is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts on this one because it's very well deserving and because I called it the Holy Grail. This brings up a topic of guys always asking me, Richard Mille's are overpriced, they're just expensive toys for those that have money to throw around and so on and so forth. Bullshit. Richard Mille puts so much research and development into every single one of his watches where he can actually justify the crazy-ass price tags that he puts on his watches. I think when this watch first came out, it was trading, I think the retail was around $200,000. Again, I don't remember what the V1 retailed for, which was unheard of for, again, it's just a split-second chronograph. It's not a tourbillon, it's not a perpetual calendar, it's not that complex, it's just a split-second chronograph. In titanium for that, it's not even in a precious metal. Why are you charging so much? Well, let me tell you why. Now, I'm sure you guys know that early days, RM only had 4 watches. They had a time-only tourbillon, which is the 01 and 02. They had a tourbillon GMT, which is the RM03. And then I had a chronograph Rattrapant, which was the 004, and a chronograph tourbillon, which was basically a 004 with a tourbillon, which was the RM8. And that was it. Their biggest deal was, you know, the RM08, which is a highly intricate tourbillon chronograph. At the time, you guys should remember that a tourbillon chronograph was a pretty rare complication combination. Richard was taking this one step further, okay? And he wanted to do a split-second chronograph like it has never been done before. So the important part to any chronograph, if you want to measure something accurately, is obviously the start and stop part. Now, the more instantaneous the stop and start is, the more precise you will measure the time elapsed. Now, for his Rattrapant mechanism, he wanted something new. So rather than the old method of using a column wheel that was stopped and started, using a system of levers that would interact with the column wheel, he went after an innovation because this is what he does. Of course, his main concern was inertia, specifically the jumping of the Rattrapant when starting and stopping due to the mass of the hands and gears should be eliminated as far as possible. Now, to do this, a pincer made of titanium, which both arms work simultaneously, engaged from one point in order to grab the split-second gear in a single swift movement. Okay, obviously, like I said, in the standard Rattrapant, this is done by 2 separate activated levers with the corresponding problem of having to adjust these accurately such that they reach the gear at the same moment. So when looking at the back of the watch, either the RM04 or even the 08, the pincers are easy to spot. However, the secret of the pincer's perfect functioning lies hidden in the unseen, complicated profiles of just 3 screws. The large ones, 1 for each pincer arm, and 1 for the center located directly between the 2. The center screw had a specifically placed head which allows fine and exact adjustment of the 2 arms' arrival on the split-second gear. I know initially he had problems implementing this because, again, whenever you implement something new, it takes time, and at the time, you know, this was a job of a single watchmaker. This was a watchmaker that sat there and tried to figure out this problem and try to create this innovation, which why later he came out with the V2, which was this, which allowed for even finer adjustment and more accuracy in his split-second chronograph. Now today, just to mention, this retails around its original price tag, which is $200,000, and you'd be hard-pressed to find either the V1, especially the V1, or the V2 for that matter, because those that know, and those that have these, they do not sell them, because this indeed is a holy grail, both the 04 and the 008 with the tourbillon. You'd be hard-pressed to find any of these out in the market. To me, it's a holy grail because it represents history of Richard Mille. It's, again, one of his very first watches. It represents a marker in time for Richard Mille where he basically said, well, you know what, F you. I'm going to create something super innovative. I'm going to create something that has never been done before, and I'm going to charge up for it. So therefore, my split-second chronograph is going to retail for $200,000. I rarely see something new and innovative from watchmakers today. Things like the Key of Time that Hublot produced, and things like this 004. It's very hard to innovate nowadays because a lot of stuff has already been innovated and created, especially in horology, considering how old horology is. $200,000 for this versus damn near $300,000 that people are asking for the Jean Todt or the McLaren. I mean, the comparison is night and day. This is definitely something for the books. This is something that's going to be a super collectible timepiece in the future. And again, I tend not to look into a glass ball, but I feel like this is the watch to buy to add to your collection if you are a Richard Mille fan, because I think down the line, these are the pieces that are going to fetch high results in auction. I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years from now, because Richard Mille is not going anywhere. He's here to stay, and he's going to stay here for a long, long time. And last but not least, in the V2, they sort of adjusted the pincers slightly further to be able to deal with the inertia and ensure that the Rattrapant works really, really well. They took a lot of the V1s and they actually converted them with people that had the V1 that would send it to Richard Mille. Richard Mille would actually, not quote-unquote put on a new movement, but it would adjust the V1 movement to the standards of the V2, hence actually making it a V2. Either one of them is actually a great collectible, but when you're out there shopping around, ask those questions if you're looking to buy one of these watches. Is this a V1 converted to a V2? Is this a V1 with the original movement, which will have issues with the chronograph, and you will probably going to want to send it back into Richard Mille to sort of quote-unquote get it fixed or upgraded? Or is this just straight up a V2 movement? My thought on that is most likely the V1 you find or the V2 you want, it's either going to be an adjusted V1 to a V2 or just a straight V2 that works just fine. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell button letting you know when my new videos come out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time for more videos and watch reviews.